I'm going to report out our evidence on this when we return in 90 seconds with our special report.
Kids, I'm sure you're wondering why your mother lied.
How much capital they might spend on this kind of thing. Trump, as I mentioned, has a strategy of pushing the orders, fast-tracking the claims, and then 3, the final step is seeing how much help he can quickly get from the Supreme Court that he has pushed to the right. Now, judges will tell you they rule by law, not party. But our politics are polarized, and the court increasingly is. Consider that Republican John Roberts and the 3 Democratic appointees largely still follow independent law, but others, Alito, a MAGA partisan, and Thomas, who literally pockets gifts that dwarf his salary, have shown how they enrich themselves and rule. The court has broken a half-century of precedent to overrule Roe, and it made new precedent with the immunity ruling for Trump. So while FDR faced a court hostile to his agenda and rights for labor, he challenged the rule of law with a very controversial court-packing plan. But Trump, by contrast, faces one of the friendlier courts of the modern era that has proven to have very partisan members. So while we hear about the court as a final guardrail against Trump's efforts, we now have a transactional president betting the court will give him transactional MAGA help. Trump's approach and the fast-tracking strategy I've told you about, on the one hand, recognizes that the legal system is a check on his power. But it also shows the view that he thinks he might bend this very system to get new powers. And that's the evidence of the strategy. You can see in the number of orders, the emergency appeals, and Trump's desire to just test and see what happens. And Trump's Supreme Court lawyers, like the ones he tapped who waged the immunity advocacy, which argued presidents could murder opponents, these are the hardliners pushing this. So how's the strategy working? The early rulings, of course, are not the end of the road. But we know something only because Trump asked for it in that emergency request I mentioned. A majority of 5 votes emerged against Trump on seizing spending powers. Those are almost always reserved to Congress. The court rejecting what was the emergency request. Trump wanted them to basically let him freeze spending that Congress had approved. And Amy Coney Barrett is the, quote, crucial 5th vote, to put it. So when you're reading the little tea leaves, the big news in the Trump immunity ruling that I mentioned earlier was, of course, he got a win. But even there, remember, Barrett also partially rejected Trump arguments and joined the liberal justices about how criminal evidence could be used. The detail may sound moot, but she ruled against Trump on that before the election that was by under 2 points. Had he lost, the Barrett ruling against him would have been applied in a Trump trial. And remember, Trump's whole history here, in the one case that did go to trial where he was convicted in New York, has become a Rorschach test for our era. Many view his criminal history and that conviction as an embrace of criminality that's bad, but Trump has a mugshot framed and hanging like a badge of honor now in his White House. And MAGA allies often view that as proof that law can be broken and changed with raw power, not viewing law as something that should constrain everyone, including the powerful. So this does come back to power. You don't need to go to law school to understand that. The founders divided it between the president, Congress, and the courts because they knew power-hungry tyrants were a threat. What would they say today, watching Republicans in Congress limit its own power that was supposed to be a check on the executive, and watch the Supreme Court have at least several members, and sometimes a majority, that seems ready to hand the president new powers? Trump's strategy is serious. I've shown you the steps, and it is concerning. To quote another power-hungry entertainer, the system broken, the schools closed, the prisons open, we ain't got nothing to lose, we rolling. No one man should have all that power. Stop tripping. I'm tripping off the power, the clock's ticking, I just count the hours. End quote. The warning of one poet who spoke from apparent experience of power tripping, and tricking MAGA fan Kanye West. Well, now the clock is actually ticking for the Supreme Court's next moves, and a nation that will face the consequence of any further power trips it authorizes. Sentiment.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
Call 877 cash now to get a $100 gift card for a free quote.
Because this is probably the friendliest court.
Thank you again. Thank you again. Don't forget.
President Trump telling Chief Justice Roberts he wouldn't forget it, and thank you. We're joined by former federal prosecutor and Politico senior writer Ankush Kardori. I walked through part of this legal strategy, which, according to the evidence and the filings, is different than other presidencies, even Trump's first term. What do you see here?
I agree with you. I mean, the speed with which they're moving is a deliberate strategy, as you noted. Part to get this stuff up to the Supreme Court as quickly as possible, but also to cause disruption in the meantime that probably cannot be easily repaired, particularly going with respect to some of these executive orders that have been impacted the agencies. I also think it's very crucial to note, as you did, that it's not just the numbers here that are unusual, it is the quality and the qualitative nature of some of these orders, which many of which are flatly illegal. I mean, the birthright citizenship executive order, I mean, is transparently unconstitutional, and I hope the Supreme Court sees it the same way. So this is a really striking, aggressive push on multiple fronts, and it is unlike anything we have seen, certainly unlike anything I've seen in my lifetime. And Trump is clearly hoping that the Supreme Court is going to help him out on some, if not all of this, and he has good reason to hope that he'll at least get some of it, because this is probably the friendliest court for Republican and conservative political priorities in nearly a century.
Yeah, let's talk about separation of powers. I mentioned that the founders thought Congress and the courts would be power checking power. If you want to be really simple, they were right about the courts to some degree, and they were wrong about the current politics of Congress, where extreme partisanship has basically led to the self-defanging and immolation of the Republican Party. How do you view that when we go to law school or people learn about history, and they got 1 out of 2, I guess, for today's politics?
It is really shocking, actually. One of the things about our democracy is that, we have these 3 branches, but there is supposed to be not just checks and balances, as we call it in shorthand, but a little competitive tension between these branches. And it is extremely unusual. I honestly, I cannot think of a comparator to see Congress, at least the Republican Party, which controls the Congress, willingly give up this power in these core areas, the legislative power. Trump, for instance, announced that he will not enforce a TikTok ban that Congress passed overwhelmingly, and that was unanimously affirmed by the Supreme Court. And Republicans in Congress, many of whom voted for that, do not seem to care. And there's also sitting by, as Trump is moving through all of these agencies, dismantling some of them and really hampering many of others of them. So it's really remarkable. I kind of wonder what is going on in the minds of some of these folks in Congress. I don't think their constituents sent them to Washington to do nothing.
Right. I mentioned the FDR and Truman examples. It was such a different time coming out of the massive depression. The court at that time was basically saying to do what FDR wanted to do on labor or regulating these powerful trusts and interests was itself unconstitutional, a view that's sort of been left in the dustbin of history. How do you compare, in all seriousness, the stakes of that era to what Trump is doing now? And as an observer of the court, you are like I am, how much does that weigh? We definitely know that when you're in the middle of a war, the tie goes to the president, right? Where does that fit into what he's asking for now, which is largely out of the arena of war, although the Trump folks would argue immigration has security implications? Does that lessen or change the way bigger power grabs might be viewed?
Well, I mean, it is striking that so much of this concerns domestic activity, almost entirely concerns domestic activity, despite the allusions to foreign affairs here and there. So in that respect, it is quite different, qualitatively different from what we've seen historically. And it is a much more aggressive, I think, power grab. And really, I mean, we've come to internalize the notion that the Trump administration believes all of these laws are unconstitutional and they're just going to litigate them up to the Supreme Court. But it is quite remarkable that we have an administration that is saying out loud that they're defying these laws in the hopes that they will get up to the Supreme Court and that the Supreme Court will change the law.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, this is not like normal politics, and it's not like a normal presidency.
Right, and I think we say that not with a view of the outcomes. There are various outcomes he could pursue with Congress to make laws, and that's why you have elections. But this is something that is much more insidious and, in his view, very partisan, as we showed him thanking the Chief Justice. How the court ultimately rules on this, as I mentioned with the Kanye quote I'm sure you recognize, on Phish, is something we'll all just have to wait and see how they rule. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. We look abroad at Putin actually clashing over what was a U.S.-Ukraine ceasefire offer. We have one of the foremost experts in the world, Ambassador McFall, coming up tonight. While Elon Musk is not only seeing his net worth plummet, but Tesla cars becoming very uncool. We'll explain.
Except this one.
Sorry, bud. Not while I weed.
You make this one cool. Right, Jethro?
Hey, who let the dogs out?
Spruce, a new weed and grass killer that's safe for use around people and pets.
Does it actually work?
Right. Did you let the dog
Visible
out?
results in 1 hour and dead weeds in 1 day. Spruce, the new, hard-working, worry-free weed and grass killer.
Life with AFib can mean a lifetime of blood thinners. And if you're troubled by falls and bleeds, is a safe, minimally invasive, one-time implant that reduces stroke risk and bleeding worry for life. Watchman, it's one time for a lifetime.
Struggling with the highs and lows of bipolar 1? Ask about Vraylar, because you are greater than your bipolar 1, and you can help take control of your symptoms with Vraylar. Some medicines only treat the lows or highs. Vraylar treats depressive, acute manic, and mixed episodes of bipolar 1 in adults. Proven full-spectrum relief for all bipolar 1 symptoms. Vraylar is not approved for elderly patients with dementia-related psychosis due to increased risk of death or stroke. Report changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts to your doctor. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults. Report fever, stiff muscles or confusion, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movement.
Specifically against Tesla.
Shoot a car commercial on government property.
This is a different
Driveway, so Trump and Elon.
Your weight loss, hair loss, anxiety, and more. Get a personalized treatment plan 100% online at forhers.com.
This is my coffee shop. We just moved into a bigger space, brought on another employee, and ordered new branded gear for the team. It was so easy. I just chose my products, added our logo, and placed my order. Bring your own team together with custom gear. Get started today at customink.com.
Trump personally fought the Tesla boycott today. He had him line up 5 Teslas on the White House driveway so Trump and Elon could shoot a car commercial on government property.
This is a different panel than I've had. Everything's computer.
You're right, Mr. President. Everything is computer. Which is also the name of the Russian knockoff of The Matrix.
Everything is also conflicts at that Donald Trump Tesla marketing event.
Mr. President, do you think you buying a Tesla will boost Tesla sales and boost their stock?
Look.
Is that your goal?
I care
by doing
about
this?
one thing. When somebody's a great patriot, they shouldn't be hurt. He's a great patriot.
Elon Musk's stock is slumping, so no Trump bump from that event. Indeed, Tesla has dropped by half just since the peak before the inauguration. JP Morgan said, "We struggle to think of anything analogous in the history of the automotive industry in which a brand has lost so much value so quickly."
It's overrated to begin with.
From their Teslas, which are so linked to Elon Musk and what he's doing now in American policy. Some trying to disown their own cars, rebranding them, covering up the Tesla logo. But a Cybertruck well, it's still going to look like a Cybertruck.
Toyota.
And then there's a very interesting development that fuses politics and what many people see as this oligarchic era. Protests not just in the streets, which we've seen, but specifically against Tesla warehouses. There have actually been about 100 so far when you count inclusively. Some, of course, are outside the warehouse or at other events. Activists speaking out. Many have been peaceful, although we should note there are instances of vandalism, which is illegal. And Trump making this odd threat about terrorism.
Some say they should be labeled domestic terrorists.
I will do that. I'll do it. I'm going to stop them. We catch anybody doing it because they're harming a great American company.
Now, the wider effort here, including protests that take on not just what the government should do to regulate corporations, but protesting companies and wealth and greed itself, actually has a long history in the United States, and it goes beyond democratic partisan efforts to win elections. You can think back to Occupy Wall Street, or in the 90s, protests against the WTO and a world trade order that many argued was bigger than any single domestic election. It had to be dealt with at the level of multinational, international greed. And then you think about why Tesla is a problem, because it's a consumer product. Musk famously won't give up the business work while he works in government, which means this is actually a point of leverage against him. Many people in business and marketing, if you're selling something directly to the public, know you don't want to alienate about roughly half of it. Michael Jordan famously said, quote, "Republicans buy Nikes too."
The statement that emerges, Republicans buy Nikes too.
I don't think that statement needs to be corrected, because I said it in jest, on a bus with Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen, and it was, thrown off the cuff.
Today, a lot of people are saying Democrats and liberals buy Teslas too, or at least they used to. We've been telling you that during this period, we want to go out and learn from all sorts of different people. So making her beat debut is Elizabeth Jenkins, an activist who helped organize a Michigan Tesla protest. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us about what you did and what motivated you.
Well, like you said, I was looking for something to do, and these Tesla protests looked pretty cool. But being in West Michigan, I thought I wouldn't be able to participate. I went to the website to see if there were any protests, couldn't find one. They say make one, so. And so much for having me.
You that during this period, we want to go out and learn from all sorts of different people. So making her beat debut is Elizabeth Jenkins, an activist who helped organize a Michigan Tesla protest. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us about what you did and what motivated you.
Well, like you said, I was looking for something to do, and these Tesla protests looked pretty cool. But being in West Michigan, I thought I wouldn't be able to participate. I went to the website to see if there were any protests, couldn't find one. They say make one, so that's what I did. I figured, I didn't want to go by myself. I was gonna go out with my little sign. I was like, at least I can get a picture of myself with the sign. So I asked my mom to go with me. But by the time I got there were 30 people, and then more and more and more. So we went back the next week. That was this past Monday, and we'll be there again this coming Monday.
So when you started, you were thinking you and your mom, and you looked online, but you didn't really have any reason to think a lot of other people would come. How did it spread? What does it say to you that it sort of gathered support in Michigan, which has been famously closely divided on politics?
Surely, and West Michigan is not really a liberal bastion. Yeah, these are people I never met before, but I posted stuff on Blue Sky online. I posted on Facebook, and by the morning of the first protest, there were 1,000 people liking my Blue Sky post, which I don't know if you're on Blue Sky, but I had like 50 followers. So it seemed very unlikely that this was going to happen. Yeah.
Right, it felt organic to you, and we've been following. I mean, it's so interesting. James Carville was saying on some of these issues, elected Democrats should stay out of the way and just sort of listen and see what's out there. Did you talk to any other people at the gathering? Did you get a sense of who was motivated to do this? And then tell me, if you can, what else you or this group of folks might do next.
Absolutely. I mean, most people feel really angry right now and don't know what to do with that anger. A lot of people were very angry. My mom among them. she was like, I don't know if this will do anything, but we better go out. And I think that we are calling our politicians. We're calling Washington D.C. We're calling people in Lansing, and we're trying to get our electeds to do something on our behalf. But it feels like there's nothing happening, and it's certainly not in proportion to the chaos that is happening with this administration, and specifically with this is run by a guy we didn't vote for. He's not elected, and he thinks because he's a billionaire that he can do what he likes, and Trump seems to think so too.
So, Elizabeth, I got about 30 seconds left. You started by organizing something, grassroots. Now you're on live national TV because of that. What do you want to say to Elon Musk about what's going to happen to Tesla, or your concern?
I think maybe he should do his job. If he wants to be a civil servant, I think he should serve the people and not himself. And if he wants to be a businessman, I think he should probably figure out how he can help Tesla bounce back from the current slump.
Quit fucking around with the government.
Understood. Elizabeth Jenkins, first-time beat guest. Tell us about what you're up to in Michigan, as you said, in that more red area. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you so much.
Absolutely. We have Ambassador Michael McFaul coming up. We're going to get some of his first reactions to what has been a tense time in Europe with calls for a possible ceasefire in the Ukraine-Russia war when we come back.
Hey, grab more delectables. That lickable cat treat.
Delickable delectables.
Yes, just hurry.
Must be delicious.
Delectables, lickable treat. Deliciously delectable delectables.
Got an itchy throat from allergies? Claritin Liquid provides powerful all-day allergy relief in an instantly soothing liquid. For relief of even your most irritating symptoms, like an itchy throat. Claritin. Live Claritin clear. When you're a small business owner, your to-do list can be a lot.
Super helpful.
Progressive makes it easy to see if you can save money with a commercial auto quote online, so you can get back to all your other to-dos. Get a quote at progressivecommercial.com.
When our numbers guy Frank goes on vacation, the deals are the most affordable.
What's up, buddy? You gotta go? Give me 10 minutes. Yeah, let's stop it. Stop. I already bought my Tesla Model X, so too late for me to boycott, but I am more than happy to join a protest. I've actually upgraded my car with a bunch of LED signs that work as animated protest signs for trolling Elon Musk and Trump. Period. You can check out my YouTube channel at Starfish Innovations. In 2023. I saw you on TV and would love to support ... Check out my YouTube channel for how I upgraded my Model X. For protesting Elon and the chum. Starfish Innovations.
So what are you thinking?
How about Africa? Safari, hot air balloon, swimming elephants.
Wait, can we afford a safari? Great question. Like everything, it takes a little planning. Or put the money towards a down payment.
On a ranch.
In Montana.
With horses.
Let's take a look at those scenarios.
JP Morgan Wealth Management has advisors in Chase branches and tools like Wealth Plan to help keep you on track. When you're planning for it all, the answer is JP Morgan Wealth Management.
reversals. Time sheet correction. Unnecessary. Sick time. Unnecessary. Go! When you take this fall, you'll be ready. Make the unnecessary unnecessary. Let your employees do their own paperwork.
I am Tony Hawk, and like many of you, I take a statin to reduce cholesterol. But statins can also deplete CoQ10 levels. That's why my doctor recommended Qunol CoQ10. Qunol has the #1 cardiologist recommended form of CoQ10. Qunol, the I trust.
Former U.S. Ambassador to Russia under Obama, and he has done summits which include presidential level meetings. Vladimir Putin dealt with the foreign policy team over there over the years. We should note, Ambassador, for folks who keep track of this kind of thing, you've written 10 books, also a Stanford professor, and we appreciate you joining us tonight. How you doing?
3 minutes, buddy.
Well, all things considered, I'm doing fine personally. The world's kind of a crazy time, though.
I've heard about that. I hear you on that. That's sort of always a caveat if we're talking about anything in the news. There was a lot of fallout after that somewhat infamous Trump-Zelensky meeting. There's also now a kind of ceasefire on the table. And so in these situations, you know, the main event, so to speak, often draws even more initial attention than the longer grinding work of diplomacy, which I remind viewers and many people know you did. So first we'd like to start with, catch us up on what is going on with the ceasefire offer. What is Ukraine's sort of view here? Then we can get to sort of what you've warned about recently in your writings and elsewhere about Putin's ambitions. But first, catch us up from your knowledge base.
Hey, baby.
So to remind everybody, when President Trump started to actively negotiate, that was a good news. I applauded that because he said, I wanted to bring peace to Ukraine.
You want to get out?
Everybody wants peace in Ukraine, the Ukrainians first and foremost. But his strategy, his diplomatic strategy,
Face tucker around,
was odd
chew on
to
his
put it
face.
diplomatically. And that he gave to Putin all the concessions at the beginning of the negotiation. He said to Putin and his team, right? Putin, Trump and his team, Ukraine can't join NATO. Ukraine has to give up territory. We're not going to put our soldiers as part of a peacekeeping operation. And then he pressured the Ukrainians, right? He cut military assistance to them. He cut intelligence aid to them. He told them they had to pay us back for the aid that a democratically elected Congress and President Biden had approved without that condition in it. And just diplomacy 101, you hold your best cards for last. You play them to get something back. And then you also negotiate behind closed doors, by the way. I can't remember a diplomatic negotiation that was ever successful with Ari Melber in the room, no disrespect, right? With the cameras rolling. That all said, the Ukrainians are in a tough place. When they lost their military aid and they lost their intelligence help especially, they had a gun to their head. So they met with the Trump team, and in Saudi Arabia, they signed a ceasefire agreement. And they don't like it. They've had ceasefires before with Putin, but they thought that they had no choice. So now ball's in Putin's court, and what we're seeing today is actually he wants more. Surprise, surprise. If you give everything at the beginning, the natural thing that I think anybody would do in any transaction, let alone Vladimir Putin, I have negotiated with him. He is a tough negotiator. He's demanding more conditions. We'll see if that's his ultimate position, but as of today, he's asking for more things before sign a ceasefire agreement.
And there are those who looked at the meeting and said if Zelensky was going to ultimately come around reluctantly, as you say, and with a heck of a lot of
You want to get up, Bob? You can get up. It's good. stuff on you. Wakey wakey. Help. That's it. Alright, can you stay here for a bit? I'll be right back. You guys got it. Ahead to go out. Now it's my turn. Hang with the sloth. Don't chew on that. Don't chew on that. That's a pine cone here. You can chew on that. After to explore forward there. that too. What could possibly go wrong? This. All right, babe. Osmo's keeping an eye on you, so he just farted. You'll be good. I'll be right back. You guys are ready to roll? No, watch your head, bud. I was gonna give that guy a screw or a magnet. Are you throwing the sloth? You picking fights with the sloth, Joy? What's going on there? You not like the sloth? Sloth is your friend. Got a box of water. What do you think about that? And some cold brew. Thank you, Joy. Did you want some water?